So, you know, we need taste, and we need to decide what we like and don't like. Otherwise, we're navigating in the dark. But I like to read a lot of stuff. Like music, I like to listen to a lot of stuff. Yeah. Anybody reading a poet that really turned them on recently? Something happening?
Billy Collins.
Billy Collins is a great poet.
He's very witty.
He's very witty. And it's a kind of poetry that, you know, that really helps poetry in America, too. He spoke at the Schnitzer a few years ago. I was dazzled by his reading. He was so warm and accessible. You know, people went away there.
That was a huge crowd.
Wasn't it? He had them.
And he kept saying, "Ooh, there's so many of them."
He was so charming. And he reads a poem about a mouse or a dog, and people are like, oh, I love it. And people walk out of there thinking, you know, poetry's not so bad. Now, if that was John Ashbery, we would have set poetry back 20 years. Maybe. I don't know. I'm picking on Ashbery. I admire Billy Collins.
I love
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yes. Sir.
Your comment about you felt like you were part of France and
Yes.
or Paris and the Great Wall.
Yes.
I believe that's because with us, poets like ourselves, anything that's artistic or inspiring, we feel a connection to it. Stonehenge, Notre Dame. We feel artists feel connections to these things because it's inspiring, it gives ideas, it has a vibe that reaches out to us, and it feels like it's part of our soul because we do art, we write books, we do art and writing, which is poetry, and, music, and so forth.
Sure. Absolutely. What does Whitman say? What I assume, you assume. You know, I mean, that really is. That's beautiful. And I'm glad you feel that way.
I'm also a part of myself.
I can see that. That's great. I'd like to read your stuff sometime. Send me a poem.
I have one with me now.
All right.
You can see it afterwards if you want.
Okay, I'd like that. Thank you. Yeah. Other things, there was some, yes?
I just had a question. I missed part of this when I walked in. Where are you teaching now?
I teach at Western Oregon University in Monmouth. Yeah, Monmouth.
Okay. And how much of a transition is that from being in China?
Well, it wasn't too difficult. I actually, after I came back from Asia, I lived in Indiana and did my graduate degree in Lit. So, and I'm pretty adaptable. I mean, I liked Indiana. I liked New York. I like Oregon. I like Japan. I like China. I've never lived in a place I didn't like. Maybe there are places that I wouldn't like, but yeah. I mean, when you first get home, the first few months, I didn't have anything. When I came back from China, I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car. I lived at my dad's house, and he drove me to work. Substitute teacher, Christopher. Substitute teacher, $60 a day. Here's my father. I'm like 30 years old. He is driving me to the high school where I graduated, and I'm working part-time, you know, for $60 a day, like 3 days a week. So, I mean, you know, it was humbling, but I was like, okay, I'm getting out of here. I'm going somewhere. And I wrote a lot of poems, though. I mean, again, that high school, some of these poems about high school, I watched those kids, and I really, you know, I mean, you mine the experiences wherever you have them. Yeah. Have you lived overseas?
I lived in England for 8 years.
Oh, great. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And I was just thinking about, you know, sometimes I've had experiences like teaching a class to high schoolers for college credit, and I bring in all sorts of poems, and I know it's often very foreign to them.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's only because most of them aren't exposed early on. They're getting nothing in their earlier grades. They don't even know how to access the poem. I mean, so it's such a great thing to turn them on to a world that's this important that really we're not encouraging very much in school.
It seems to be, yeah. And thanks for letting me talk about it. You know, I'm not one of these teachers too that you know, like complains about my students. I love my students, but this is the big 45 students.
Wow.
You know, they call the LACC, the liberal arts requirement. So there's no English majors in there. You know, English, they're fine. I love my English classes. They're okay. We're okay. We you know, there's still work to do, but this is like, so some of them have zero interest even, and so, but you have to sell it differently. And I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna sell it tomorrow. You know, I'm just gonna go in there and I'm gonna do my best and put on a show and try to get them to enjoy poetry. And that's my job, you know. But it's a little. That's the only class where sometimes I really do feel daunted. And I did the other day, and I did exactly what I said. I brought in a personal poem to try to lay it out there for him a little bit. You know, maybe that was desperate. Was it desperate? You think? I read the Treehouse to them. Talk about my. Here I am. I'm going all out. I'm going to talk about my dead mother. Man, you better be serious.
Well, I was curious about something. I mean, you were showing us new poems, and you're being really prolific, and you're also collaborating on a book with photography. And you managed to do this while you're teaching. So how many classes are you teaching a term?
I teach 3 classes a term. Yes, Western is a teaching school, not a research school. Those folks that you know, they got it cush. I like to write. There's always time to write if you want to write. So, yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 stepchildren. No, you can ask me anything. I like this. I have 2 stepsons, 11 and 13. Yeah. And they're another challenge. So there are some poems in Moist Meridian about them, but there'll be a lot more coming in. I changed their names, but they're getting it. Yeah. These are great questions. Thank you. Yeah.
You try to write at a set time?
What's that, sir?
You try to write at a set time?
I love the mornings. I'm just the freshest in the morning. The brain is at its best. Right now, I'm just running on, happiness. No, but really, I get to bed early. 10 o'clock, and get up at 5. And no one's around. No one's around. It's quiet. And so I love. This is so funny. I'm reading. Can I do this? I'm sitting in Libby's. Is it Libby's down the street? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm reading the Boomer Senior News. You ever read this paper?
Yeah.
It's a good paper. I like this paper. So it's got some health tips in here. And there's a woman who's got this whole thing. She's very cute. Here she is. Her name is Crystal Borup.
Yeah.
You know her?
No, but I read the article.
You read the article? Okay. Well, listen to her day. Listen to what she tells you should do. Wake up at 6 a.m. You know what? Remember this? Drink a full glass of water with either lemon or aloe. All right. I do drink water after I brush my teeth, before I brush my teeth, so you don't ingest all the toothpaste. But listen to this. 7 a.m. Drink greens. Drink greens. Either a green smoothie, green leafy vegetables, or fruit, or a green powdered drink. Now, do you drink greens?
No.
What do you drink at 7 a.m.?
I'm not even up at 7 a.m.
Okay, you're a smart woman. I mean, I have water and then a coffee or a tea.
Tea is my best.
Tea is good for you. Well, what's this drinking green? And then a powder drink? I thought she's all this organic. What's with this powder drink?
Probably
And then-
from the health food store.
I guess so. And then 8 o'clock, breakfast of steel cut oats. What, you can't have like copper cut oats? With banana and cinnamon or just fruit. I mean, again, so everybody has their own schedule, their own way of doing things. But some people write at night. Were you a night writer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Christopher is a former student of mine. He was a wonderful student. He's a talented guy. He was an actor. We were in West Side Story together.
Yes, we were.
Remember that?
That was a blast.
Yeah. And I played Doc. I was the old guy. Rotten kids. But I remember that. You write very late at night. Paulina, when do you write?
Oh, whenever I can.
Okay, you're very busy now.
Grab,
Yeah.
Little bits and pieces.
Okay. But your experience, you can do that, right? You can grab a piece of time and make a poem? Or make a part of it? See, that's hard to do sometimes. That takes a lot of discipline.
Lex Runciman is a teacher as well, and he says he learned to write in 15-minute increments.
Well, yeah. Bill, when do you write?
Mornings.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm retired.
Okay, right. I know. You mention it every chance you get. No, he does. Yeah. Steve, when do you write? What time do you write?
Well, we talking about here.
I was talking to you, yes.
Oh, there's writing and then there's thinking about writing.
Okay, there is.
I do my best writing when I'm driving.
Really? You just put it in your head?
That's right, yeah. Then you write it down later.
Okay. That's who does that? Clem Stark always said he did that.
Yeah.
He composed in his brain a lot and then wrote it down later. That's interesting. Constance, when do you write?
Hardly ever.
Okay. Maybe you need to drink greens. Okay. Miss, I'm sorry. Yes, when you're a writer. Tell me when you write.
I love the morning.
Okay.
I love them.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to know yourself. You got to know your rhythms, and right? Whenever you're at your best. You know, do it. Yeah. Well, how are we doing? I don't want to keep you here. I don't want to keep the pond house, you know.
Oh, we love to see you.
This is fun. I'm enjoying this. Yeah.
So are we.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad. This is great.
Karaoke doesn't start till 10.
What, I get past my bedtime. You have karaoke here? No, you're kidding. So, are you a writer, miss? Are you a writer? Okay. Tell me, what do you write? Poetry?
I'm just delving into poetry and I really like it. I was really surprised. My mom was a great poet.
Oh,
And so I can't believe how much I'm enjoying it.
that's great. Yeah. I mean, people will ask you sometimes, well, why do you write poetry? You know, you're going to make money. You gotta like it. Right.
Do it for the money.
No, and so it is in some ways really is a pure art because there's very little chance that it will do anything except make you happy or, you know, help you explore yourself, right? I mean, I don't know, what else?
It's a labor of love. You have to admire people that write poetry because they have to do it in so many words. It's not like writing a novel. You can fill it out. You
Yeah.
fill out the characters.
Exactly.
You've got lots of time
Got
to
lots
do
of
the
time.
action. But with a poem, you've got to get it right with just strictly so many words.
I like what you just said. I agree.
It's absolutely essential.
I believe it is.
A lot of poems like a lot of poets like to write poems that express feeling because when they write a deep poem, it's usually with a lot of passion, emotion, feeling, and it is a way to express one's feelings to the world without saying them out loud.
Yeah,
A lot of persons understand them a bit more better through writing.
yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, the Romantics talked about that very, very plainly. Sometimes that's a little out of fashion to say that you know you're writing from the deepest, you know, burning embers of your heart. That's very Keatsian or Byronic, but in fact, it's true. Maybe our voices are different. We feel we need to get there in a different way. But sincerity is sincerity. Yeah. Bill?
Well, the poet Jack Spicer says, they kicked me in the teeth a few times, but they never really helped me much.
That's great. Right. Christopher.
On the sincerity about writing,
Yeah.
how do you, like, with your poetry, how many revisions would you say, or, I know David
Beispiel?
Beispiel talks about how he doesn't consider, like, revisions of a poem, but just, like, different editions of the same poem.
Yeah.
But what's your approach to revision?
I revise a lot. Some poems more than others, but some poems get completely changed over time. And as long as I feel I'm true to the poem, I know, because there's a little bit of a paradox here. Some people will say, well, that's what I wrote, and that came right out of my heart, and that's the truth. I'm not going to change it. And I say, well, you know, that's fine. If that's important to you, those words are important to you, that's great. Now, do they hold up as a poem? I'm not sure. Maybe that's a really important journal entry for you. No, I'm not saying it's, you know, in a patronizing way, but to me, it then becomes an art object. And I want to work it as hard as I can. And I find that I'm closer to sincerity and closer to the truth when I really work those words. And then, I don't know, then there's other things, you know, then you play the sounds. I'm going to leave. I thought this poem was about this, but it's really not. It's about something else because this sound took me in this direction, and I'm going to go with it, you know. But revision, you know, I think it's the biggest difference between amateur writers and really good writers is taking revision very seriously. Yeah. And that's partly, you know, you have to get over being in love with yourself too, which, you know, for all of us love ourselves. And we love the way we sound. No, we do. And so you've got to, you know, also be like, okay, but, you know, you got to be a better lover, you know, or something. I don't know. See, I get in trouble every time I do impromptu, like that whole assonance thing. God, I'm going to get a lawsuit. There's going to be a lawsuit against me.